hope that you enjoy. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. Be All My Sins Remembered. Written by Menegator. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. Hamlet. She realized that the figure sitting alone in the bar, looking at the glass he held into his hands, apparently lost in his thoughts, was a human. Being relatively newcomers in the galactic scene, she wasn't expecting to see one. She had never seen any one of them venturing this far. She felt her blood boiling as her claws extended. She barely managed to compose herself. 30 years ago, the Daklans invaded the space of species seen as a defenseless prey. Humans. My gods, they fought like demons, and newcomers or not, their technology was far ahead. They pled the Daklans to surrender, offering generous terms that no other was going to offer to an enemy beaten down this hard. But they were the Daklans, never surrender, wonder, or die trying. And die they did. She lost her mate. She lost her elder children. She lost her parents. She lost everything and everyone but her youngest daughter. Humans had ruled never to attack civilians when there were no such thing in Daklan civilian. They all were the first and foremost warriors. First, they started dying in millions, and then in the billions. The path to the holy grounds of the Daklan Matar was paved with blood, Daklan and human alike. In the end, humans had won, and yet this defeat brought a new era for the feline species. Now humans and Daklans are close allies, their bitter war been long forgotten. But Zamalan had not forgotten what she had fled. She fled like a demons of hell were chasing her. And here, in the arse end of nowhere, there was a human drinking, alone, lost in his thoughts. She approached the human, her heart filled with rage. "You want to kill me, Daklan?" he asked, not looking at her. "I suppose I deserve it. Fuck." Then he started talking more to himself than her. "Do you know why I chose to be a bombardier? Because I fucking loved the bomber's shape. There was such beauties, at first. Then in the crew I found the brothers and sisters I never had. Do you know, Puller? Of course you do. After all, your unconditional surrender was signed on that very battle carrier. You never had a battle carriers till we met you. Plato said that it was necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah, he's long dead. Who gives a fuck what he said? But you know something. Every war is a fucking cave allegory. You fight the shadows. You learn to hate the shadows. But in the end, you're nothing more than another shadow. You have to break free. You have to go outside the cave to grasp the true horror of the war. Our squadron was staged in Pulla. We called her Jesty. Did you know that at the time was the biggest vessel that we'd ever produced? Nearly 1 kilometer long and over 1 fucking million tons of Ceramo steel, hosting 10 wings of attack spacecraft, 5 wings of bombers, and a whole fucking marine battalion with their dropships and their tanks. We were young and proud for being the tip of the biggest stick our species had ever produced. He sighed. And we were just at the steps of the Daklan Matar, our last stand in space and the lands of Sundakor. We've just beaten what was left of your navy, and having the space superiority, we would demand, again, you to surrender. You fucking didn't, by fucking gods. Why? You were on your death throes, you fucking stubborn pieces of alien crap. We were young. We were prideful. We were stupid. We got it into our bomber. Stormbringer was such a beauty. Such a fecking beauty. And then we would drop it at the skies of Sundercore like Thor's fecking hammer. We made our first run, then a second, then a third. Whoever sows winds reaps storms. We sowed winds, and we reaped storms. We got it. Skipper, we're going down. Mac, Steve, we're going down. We're going down. Brace for impact. I don't know how I got out of that unscratched from that wreckage. We had crashed in a farmland in the Rawson nowhere. Far in the horizon, the battle was raging on. But here, it was so peaceful. The pilots were goners. Mac and Steve, the 2 of the 5 gunners, were mangled corpses. Joe was in his death throes. Jude, her beauty transcending her death, like Hades himself wanted to preserve her beauty to light his kingdom of shadows. It was so peaceful out there. How come death and destruction became so peaceful? It was only me and George who got out alive. He had a broken ankle, but he was alive. I radioed in. A battle raged. There was no one to spare to come getting us. We had to lay down and wait for rescue. George was in pain. The shot I gave him doing little. And then I heard the sound of bullets raining down on us. It was a dark hole, he said. I was alone. Then my panic suddenly subsided. I stood there, rained down by bullets giving no craps. Then the rage. I don't know where it came from. It took my weapon and I became a berserker. The Ripper himself. I don't remember. My mind shut down to preserve my sanity. He stared at infinity, his voice broken. And then the veils were lifted and I saw what I'd done. What I have done. She lay dead, her body covering 2 cubs, and the cubs were dead too. God, the cubs were dead, and I was the one who murdered them. He didn't finish. He burst into tears. He put his face in his hands and started crying. She didn't know what to do. She had never seen humans acting this way. Humans used to be bitter enemies, and yet she felt her hatred dissolving into the air. Still not looking at her, he continued talking, again rather to himself than her. My father's warning still echoed in my mind. Trust me, son, until you've drawn your first blood, killing is just an abstraction. For some, not to be consumed by the fact that they killed may prove to be harder than killing itself. Be afraid of a man how this world wasn't shattered after his first kill. He sighed. We were soldiers. We had a greater duty. From the dawn of history, soldiers sold their souls to the devil in order to spare their countrymen from the same fate. But this, it was too much. Too fucking much. I ran, and I kept running, but no matter how far away I went, I could never escape. I will never. He started sobbing again. In front of her wasn't a frightful warrior that she'd learned to fear and hate. In front of her was a broken man, a victim of the very same war his species had won. She didn't know what to do except what her maternal instincts screamed at her. She hesitantly hugged him, and then the same hug got tighter and tighter, and she started rocking him gently. And then, just like that, two former enemies in a war long forgotten by everyone but those who survived its true horror, found themselves hugging tight, sobbing, in a vain effort to comfort themselves, but more importantly, each other. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and